Individual Quality Tool Presentation on Flowcharts by Michael Luker for class PRM 613, Project Integration and Quality. This is a week 6 assignment. Goals. After my presentation, you will have a better understanding of flowcharts. Understand when best to use a flowchart, tools available for flowcharts, advantages and disadvantages of flowcharts, and how to create a flowchart. My outline will provide a definition, why use flowcharts, quality, how to use flowcharts, other tools, when to use it, the advantages and disadvantages, and how we use the flowcharts in our ACME project, a conclusion, and references. Flowcharts are known as process maps. They provide a sequence of steps detailing a process. In other words, a flowchart is an illustration of sequential steps to perform a process. The idea behind flowcharts is to provide a picture so those using it can visualize what is going on. Flowcharts are used to bring a formal, consistent, idealistic approach to a process, introducing the likelihood the process will be repeated. Repeated, fully vetted processes ensure quality, but also help identify gaps. Flowcharts can be complex, where they detail every aspect of a process, to simple, where they are very high level, avoiding the minutiae. Flowcharts should follow 6 thoughtful actions. They should set boundaries. Don't flow every minute detail. Determine the basic steps in a process beforehand, before attempting to complete a flow. Establish the sequence of process steps using sticky notes, similar to the brainstorming activity. This helps to involve others and brings in different points of view. The next step would be to draw the flowchart. Using the system of choice, map out your flowchart processes. Test the flowchart for accuracy and finalize. Nathan Ensminger noted that flowcharts are used in electronic computing to provide what he calls a conceptual structure to complex software systems. Flowcharts serve as a centerpiece of the design phase to communicate and negotiate. Flowcharts were introduced by John von Neumann in the mid-1940s for computing purposes. Ensminger goes on to say that the joke of the time is, "Here's my flowchart." It is usually wrong. There are a multitude of systems out there to create flowcharts. For example, there's PowerPoint, there's Word, there's Excel, but the best of all is Visio. There are 5 basic symbols used to flowchart. An oval, here, is the starting point. A rectangle represents an activity. A diamond represents a decision point. A line connects the inputs and outputs, and a circle indicates a connection to other charts. Flowcharts help transmute inputs into outputs. Inputs are either internal or external steps in a process that are required before advancing in the process. An input could be an output from a prior process. Some advantages to using flowcharts. They can clearly articulate steps in the process. They're easy to understand, and they can improve quality by identifying gaps. Some disadvantages. They can be time-consuming to build. And typically, you need a tool to build a flowchart, and those tools usually have limitations. Processes always change, so updating is required. There are 7 basic quality tools in the performance management industry, also known as the 7 QC tools. Cause and effect diagrams, better known as fishbone or Ishikawa diagrams, are designed to identify the problem statement and place this problem statement at the beginning of the diagram and work your way backwards to the root cause. Check sheets, also known as tally sheets, can be used to track data. By using check sheets, one can organize the realities so one can draw some conclusions about a particular problem. Pareto diagrams are vertical bar charts that identify problems. Histograms identify the central tendency, dispersion, and shape of a statistical distribution. Control charts are used to identify the stability of a process. And scatter diagrams, also known as correlation charts, identify the correlation of dependent and independent X and Y variables. Here's an example of a flow chart by Jacobson that was used in a research article about when and how should multiple imputations be used for handling missing data in randomized clinical trials. I had every intention of recording this live with Visio as I created this flowchart, but for days I struggled to try and create that, and I just don't know how to do it. So what I did is I created this flowchart in Visio and saved it to my PowerPoint. So below is a brief scenario demonstrating how to use the tool at Acme Inc. The project manager wanted to clearly flow the survey process to the point of gathering surveys. The project manager assigns the WBS identified in our project and requests the process be flowed so everyone understands what the process is so proper survey data can be collected. The first input in the box that states established survey platforms, right here. The next step, the output of one survey created, now becomes an input for the next steps. If you follow the yes side or output submit survey approval form, now becomes an input for the next step. This transformation of inputs and outputs occurs until the end. When to avoid a flowchart. We should avoid using flowcharts when we have an unstable, goal-oriented work process that requires constant updating. Flowcharts that have too many process variations become cumbersome and difficult to follow. When processes have predefined execution flows that can be disrupted with multiple variations, it is not ideal to use flowcharts. We should never use flowcharts when ensuring goals that accomplished in parallel with customers' outcomes. Lastly, we should avoid using flowcharts when the desire is to have people interaction or dialogue. Introducing a flowchart channels thought to the process instead of the discussion. In conclusion, we discussed the goals, provided an outline, gave a description of flowcharts, the tools available to use in flowcharts, the 5 basic symbols in flowcharts, described inputs and outputs, give the advantages and disadvantages of flowcharts, provided information on alternative tools, did an example of a flowchart in academic literature, showed you how to create a flowchart. Unfortunately, I wish I could have done that live on Visio, and also teaching you how to use the tool. While researching how to go to Visio to demonstrate how to use flowcharts or build a flowchart, teaching you how to use the tool, I learned how to use this point and click check mark. So throughout this presentation, you've enjoyed my annoying point and click check marks, which were sketchy to say the least. Regardless, here's my reference page. I did use more than 3 references. Thank you for watching my presentation, and I look forward to your feedback.